next slide, Whitney. Okay, so again, welcome to the workshop. Just a little bit about myself. I'm an anthropologist and a historian and work as a museum professional, but I'm also a highly sensitive person and an empath and a medium as well. And I've been studying metaphysical studies and doing body work for a number of years. And I'm also a huge fan of AfroFuturism and comics and graphic novels. And I've been a fan for about 20 years or so. So in the chat, or if you want to just turn on your mic, you can tell me your name, where you live, and then one superpower or ability that you would like to have, or if you know you have an ability already, let me know which one you already have. So right now I can't see the chat, so if anyone has Whitney, is there? Oh, okay. Invisibility, force fields. That can definitely come in handy. And for myself, my ability, I have a lot of psychic abilities and energy, so that would be my superpower. Anyone else want to share? Okay, so we'll just move on to the next slide. So we can go to the next one, please. Okay, so the purpose of this workshop is to learn about Afrofuturism and popular comic and fantasy characters that come out of that tradition. We're going to learn about how popular comic and fantasy characters use spiritual practices in their adventures, and then learn various spiritual practices to improve your connection to body, mind, and spirit. Okay, you can go to the next one. Okay, so my first question is, what do you think of when you hear the word Afrofuturism? What comes up for you? Okay, Black Panther. Yeah, definitely a big example of the potential of Afrofuturism. Octavia Butler, yes. She's a seminal writer in Afrofuturist studies. She's like the queen. Yes, and I noticed that movies and also literature are mentioned. We're going to talk a little bit more about other types of Afrofuturism. N.K. Jemisin, yes, that is one of my favorite writers as well. Okay, can we go to the next slide, Whitney? Okay, so Afrofuturism, what is it? It is defined as a cultural aesthetic, philosophy of science, philosophy of history that explores the developing intersection of African diaspora culture with technology. It was a term that was coined by Mark Deary in his essay, Black to the Future, written in 1993. And basically it's a way of understanding and viewing history, culture, visual art, music, etc., through an Afrocentric lens that's then projected onto the future. So Black Panther would be a way of seeing contemporary African cultures, but projecting how that would look in the future, where you have an African society that can develop minus colonization, and having enhanced technology. So that kind of encompasses what Afrofuturism is about. Okay, can you go to the next one? Okay, so, and as you know, we're going through these, if you can think of any other artists that represents for you what Afrofuturism looks like, please, you know, let me know in the chat. But these are some folks that I'm sure everybody knows about. Sun Ra is over on the left corner. He's was based in Philadelphia for a while, was pioneer of Afrofuturism in jazz. We have Erykah Badu, Flying Lotus, Janelle Monáe, MF Doom, Dr. Octagon, FKA Twigs, Shabazz Policies, Solange, yes, definitely. Flying Lotus, King Britt, who's your bottom left corner. He's an electronic music producer. So these are all people that, you know, use that Afrofuturistic lens in their music when they're creating, and their images as well. Okay, Whitney, you can go to the next one. Okay, so these are some examples of Afrofuturism in visual art. And again, if you have any artists that remind you of using Afrofuturism in their art as well, you can also list those in the chat. We have Jean-Michel Basquiat. The second image with the man with the tuba kind of coming out, that is an artist named Nick Cave, and he constructs what are called sound suits. And so there are these suits that are based off of West African garb, and they're all designed differently, but they all have like an audio kind of quality to them. And they're very kinetic in their design. Creative Soul Photography is a husband and wife duo, and they create these really cool images where they stylize children using very African futuristic types of designs. Paul Elwin is an artist at the top right. He's been getting a lot of acclaim lately. He's designed a few book covers for Octavia Butler. So some of her newer iterations of her covers were designed by him. The bottom right is an artist named Ramelzy, who is a graffiti artist in the 80s and was very grounded in futuristic representation in hip hop culture. Okay, you can go to the next one with me. Okay, and then some examples of Afrofuturism in movies and TV. And some, so I kind of have a mix of, you know, more contemporary films, but then those earlier ventures into using Afrofuturistic themes in movies. So one is Brother from Another Planet, starring Joe Morton, kind of looking at alien invasion onto planet Earth. Pumsy is a film that's in the middle there, which deals with the effects of climate change and global warming on the planet. Sankofa also has futuristic themes and themes that deal with time travel. A Wrinkle in Time is also kind of deals with portals and interdimensional travel. And then of course The Wiz, which is classic film with Diana Ross. Okay, can we go to the next one? Okay, some examples of Afrofuturism in books, and a few authors and books have been mentioned already in the chat. Of course, Octavia Butler, who is one of the forerunners of creating Afrofuturistic stories. Her Parable of the Talents and Parable of the Sowers have really been revised within the past few months, definitely linking back to what's happening with our country politically. There's a lot of themes that she kind of foresaw that were going to happen when she, wrote the book, that are starting to come to pass. N.K. Jemisin is another Afrofuturistic writer. Her Stone Sky series has characters that are able to manipulate the elements. Nalo Hopkinson is a writer. She's from the Caribbean. She uses a lot of magical and fantasy notes in her writing. Nandi, excuse me one second. Nandi Okorafor, she's a Nigerian writer, and a lot of her stories are very kind of alien based and take place off planet in different worlds, but use African characters and creatures in mythology, and she interweaves that within her narratives. Yatasha Womack created a really great anthology on Afrofuturism, and that when that came out, that kind of sparked more of the trend for looking at Afrofuturism as a discipline. And then Stephen Barnes and Tarana Grieve too. Their work tends to be some of it tends to be more in the horror trope of vampires, but then they also do right, and Nandi does consider her work definitely more African futurism, and as being distinctive from Afrofuturist. Yeah, it's definitely a full subculture. Okay, great. Can you go to the next one, please? Okay, so these are some examples of Afrofuturism in comic books and also in graphic novels. Overall, when it comes to comic book characters, there usually isn't a lot of African American or African representation. But because of Black Panther just having such a heavy impact, and there have been characters that have been, sprinkled in over the years, over the past like really 50, 60 years. But because of Black Panther, more interest has come up in utilizing African American characters for these stories. So we have Black Panther, of course. His sister Sherry, she has her own run as well. And that was written by Nandi Okorafor. So if you have time, please check it out. It's a really great run. We have Static Shock. Ironheart, who is a Marvel character, Riri Williams. Her work deals with, she witnessed violence in her community. She lost really close friends, and then decided to create AI tech in order to help her battle against oppression and gang violence in her community. And she got enlisted by Tony Stark, so she got a nice, better equipment for that. And then another woman that was profiled is Martha Washington. And she had a series that, called Give Me Liberty. It was written by Frank Miller and Dave Gibbons. And Frank Miller wrote Sin City and then also Watchmen as well. So this was kind of like their foray together before kind of coming up with Watchmen. And she was a woman that was based in Chicago. She actually lived in the Cabrini Green projects in Chicago and became a military soldier. And eventually ended up, her adventures kind of went off planet. And she did a lot of fighting here on planet as well. So it's a really great series. It's a little difficult to find, but if you're really interested, I have all of them, so I can email them to you or send them to you. Okay, Whitney, if you can go to the next one. Okay, so these are some examples of Afrofuturism in sociology and philosophy. And what these writers have really done an excellent job of doing is taking the Afrofuturist lens and applying it to social problems and social conditions as a way of creating solutions for those problems. So, or just looking at literature in and of itself and how it can be problematic in the way that it views African-American culture and history. Adrienne Marie Brown, a lot of the other panelists have referenced her. Her work, Emergent Strategy, is being utilized in groups today to look at how we can look at forming communities and make our communities function in a more beneficial way within our cultures. The Book of Ice is a book by Paul Miller, where he looks at climate change and global warming and its effect on Antarctica and how that trickles down and affects the rest of the planet. But he looks at it through also the lens of sound and how sound affects those planetary changes. Okay, you can go to the next one. Okay, so there are kind of two streams of Afrofuturism. There's sort of like the original stream that most writers and artists created from, and then there was kind of a revamped stream that came along later, the 2.0 version. The original themes are, still being used in tropes today, but it kind of represents where people were functioning from originally. So some of those themes are social justice, feminism, looking at alienation, looking at like using aliens as an analysis for how African people and people of color are alienized in their own societies, in their own communities. Looking at the environment, and then also looking at reclamation of land as well. Now in the 2.0 version, you start to incorporate things like metaphysics, aesthetics and art, theoretical and applied science, more social sciences, and then programmatic spaces. So you can say Black quantum futurism is an example of a programmatic space. Okay, you can go to the next one right now. Okay, so this next question, and you can, think about if you want to answer both, or just the first one, or or the second. Can you name some examples of Afrofuturism that you've watched, listened to, or read? Or do you create Afrofuturist art yourself? Are you a writer? Are you a painter? Are you a musician? And you utilize Afrofuturist themes in your work. And then what themes does that art speak to? Does it speak to social justice or the environment or technology? So we'll just give a few minutes for anyone who wants to share some examples of Afrofuturism that that you really like, that really speaks to you, or if you created, kind of, are you creative? And please don't be shy.
For me, I am an aspiring filmmaker, and so the works that I aspire to make, I would say, are based in Afrofuturism and feminism. Yeah, so that's what I would say. I just haven't got there yet.
Okay, so I haven't had any.
Oh, I wanted to share,
Oh
if
yeah,
that's
sure.
all right. And
Yeah,
thank you,
definitely.
Erica. We need more Afrofuturistic filmmakers. I'm a writer, and I write in Afrofuturism, and a lot of the themes that I'm writing towards deal with like eco-socialism and feminism specifically, as well as like the blending between natural technologies and more digitized technologies.
And what influenced you to bring those things together?
Okay. Sorry, I'm just managing the slides well, unmuting myself at the same time. Way to go, tech support. I'm deeply influenced by a lot of the people that were in the slides. So Octavia Butler is definitely not just my favorite writer, but is my literary ancestor. Um, in addition to like Nydia Foraker, Nala Hopkinson is absolutely remarkable as well, and so many others. I um, grew up in kind of a rural um, hometown, so I always was a witness to natural technologies. So Afrofuturism just made a lot of sense. It's not like, you know, lasers and spaceships are that different than like a hologram of like a spider web. So I don't know, it just seemed like a natural coming together.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's great when I think that's what makes it more real for people, if you can find things that are just in your natural everyday environment, and then you just kind of take that and um, project another type of utility out of it. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and we can go to the next slide. Okay, so looking at the theme of metaphysical energy that comes out of this revamp of Afrofuturism 2.0. So what is, that type of energy? Well, metaphysical energy is basically the energy behind everything. It connects all matter on an atomic level. Um, and it's interpersonal and a non-physical force or essence. So it's constructed of our bodies, the elements, our celestial bodies, and the universe. And so it is this connection between all of that matter. Um, and so there are different types of energy that can be channeled and transmuted within and surrounding the body. And it goes by different names depending on the culture. It could be chi, that second word is also chi, pranayama, nayama, which is a concept in Bamana in West Africa, which stands for life force energy. And so in our, in our bodies, we can vacillate between lower frequency energy and higher frequency energies. And some of those lower states is where you experience disorganization, chaos, your diseases can exist in those states, low production, anxiety, depression. Those are all kind of lower energy frequencies. But then when you move into the higher energy frequencies, you start to experience more harmony, health, high performance, peace of mind, more comfort, and more happiness. And so if you're looking at generally the lower energy vibrations on a continuum, usually kind of start at the bottom and then work their way up towards the top. Okay, you can go to the next one, please. So looking at, metaphysical energy, and then looking at characters and commentators that represent beings that represent kind of the pinnacle of being able to utilize that metaphysical energy. I found a few African-American, African, and just people of color comic book characters that utilize that energy. And so they can utilize the energy not only within their bodies, but they can also extend it out to the elements as well. So a really great series. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's called Avatar: The Last Airbender. And basically the avatar can master all four elements, which is air, water, wind, and earth, and fire. But he's, at the time that the series starts, he's in a position where he's mastered one, but he hasn't been able to master all of them. And so the series is basically based on him mastering all of those elements. Miss America, who's America Chavez. She is a Latino superhero character, and she's able to travel interdimensionally. She has a one that just started about a year or so ago. It's really good fun if you want to pick up that type of comic. Storm, of course, from the X-Men, she's able to channel. Just influence all of the elements basically, and channel electricity as well. I have Mace Windu as a representation from Star Wars, and Star Wars talks about the use of the Force, which basically is channeled metaphysical energy that Jedis are able to tap into and utilize. And then the original Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, is also is known as Photon Spectrum, and she's able to channel her energy as well into Photon Blast. And if you know of any characters as well, you can say them or list them in the chat. You can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so there are different types of body work that you can utilize in order to manipulate this energy within yourself. And by doing it, it can help to bring a sense of stasis kind of within your body. It helps to deal with anxiety, depression, trauma, any types of imbalance that exists in the body. You can use different types of body work in order to stabilize it out. So there's meditation and grounding, Tai Chi and Qigong, Reiki, sound frequencies, and astral projection and lucid dreaming. And I have a resource sheet that's available on the Time Camp site. So if you want to look more and dive more into some of these practices that we'll be going over today, you can always pull that up, and I have links to different resources for that. Okay, Whitney, can you go to the next one? So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the chakra system. Now there are 7 primary chakras that exist within the body that run from root to the crown. And then there are 5 that exist minimally. Sometimes I've read that there are 13 total, but there are at least 5 that exist on the outside of the body. And so when you're working on balancing or stabilizing the energy within those chakras, it not only extends within your body, but then also in your environment as well. And each one corresponds with a corresponding symbol, a color, and emotion that goes with it. So normally, and we're going to watch the video clip in a few minutes, but the root chakra is usually red in color, the sacral is orange, and they all represent different emotions as well. So for the root, it's safety and stability. The sacral, it's more joy, sensuality. The solar plexus has to do with your sense of power that you have in your body and how you relate to yourself. Your heart chakra deals with your relationships, your sense of love. Your throat chakra deals with your expression and your ability to communicate. Your third eye chakra deals with your wisdom, your intuition that comes in through there. And your crown chakra is your transcendence. So we're going to watch a short video. This actually comes from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And the avatar at this point is sitting with his guru, and his guru is explaining to him what the different chakras mean and how they impact him. And in order for him to get to his final level of the avatar state, what he has to do or let go of in order to process through them.
Can everyone see that? Okay, here we go.
Oh, can you turn on that volume?
It's because I was muted, perhaps. Let me try again.
Oh.
Also, you might have to pause the recording, possibly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Let's try again.
You're muted.
Thank you. You can see from that clip the levels of energy kind of processing and emotional processing that's required in order to through your chakras, work through your emotions. And, you know, so most times it takes revisiting ones, maybe a particular week, you're really having a difficult time with feeling secure, maybe in your body or in your space. And you can do exercises in order to meditate on that particular chakra so that you can release that energy, so that you can move onto higher ones and feel secure in that particular chakra that you work in. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments about that? Okay, we can move on to the next body work. The next slide, please. Okay, so Reiki is another type of bodywork that is a tradition that comes from Japan, and it's used for stress reduction. It's developed by Mikao Usai, and it involves hands-on touching in order to bring energy into balance. It's generally taught through attunements. There are 3 levels generally. The first level is Shoden, and that usually focuses more on your intention and focusing the energy within your body and directing it towards your hands in order to assist someone with healing. And really the healing process isn't you actually doing it, it's just allowing the person's energy center to open up within themselves. So you're just guiding the energy to where it needs to go. It stimulates the healing of mind, body, and emotions. And some of its benefits, it can relieve pain, calm emotions, and also helps to aid with your meditation. So like for me, for my meditation practice, oftentimes I'll start my Reiki practice and then go into my grounding session. So you can kind of use them interchangeably. And the 3 levels, so Shoden again is about more directing your intention with the energy kind of towards your hands in order for healing. For level 2, Okuden uses symbols. So there's certain Reiki symbols that you are attuned with, that you receive, and then you can project those symbols for healing of yourself, and then also you can do distance healing as well. So if you have a family member who's sick, maybe in another state, you can send them Reiki symbols as healing energy to assist with their healing. And then level 3 is when you've gotten to the master level and you can perform Reiki healings not only on yourself but also on others as well, and you can teach others how to do Reiki. Okay, we can go to the next one, please. Okay, and this is the final metaphysical practice that doesn't really incorporate body work, but it does, it's our way of experiencing interdimensional travel. And that's through a process called lucid dreaming or astral projection. And lucid dreaming allows for your astral body to be able to travel while you're asleep. And this travel can take place within the course of your house, or you can travel to different places. Some people have traveled to different planets. And some people have actually met up with others and traveled with them. And by putting yourself in the state of lucid dreaming during your waking life, it helps to be able to strengthen your intuition. And there are people that have had pleasant experiences with astral travel, and then there are people who have not had pleasant experiences. So it's important to do your research to know what's the safe and most effective way to do it. And it helps by just practicing your meditation regularly, paying attention to your dream symbols. So if you have certain animals that pop up, if you continuously see an owl or tigers, know that these animals are sending you certain symbols or certain signs. And I have like a dream dictionary that I refer to that helps me to interpret what these symbols mean. And keeping a dream journal is also important as well. We have one other clip, and this one is of the Marvel comic movie, Doctor Strange. And there's a scene in the film where he experiences astral projection, where he's pushed from his physical form into his astral form by a character known as the Ancient One. So we're just going to watch a little bit about this. And so this is talking about astral projection, not only from the perspective of our own bodies, but then also looking at interdimensional travel as well.
So just a heads up, we have about 5 minutes. The workshop is supposed to end at 1:30.
Right. This will be the last one. We won't be able to do the exercise.
Okay, just wanted to check in.
Thank you. Okay, so we only have about 2 more minutes, I think, to the end of the session. The last one I wanted to go over with you was Qigong, but I did put together a list of resources. It's on the Time Camp workshop page, and it has resources on the chakra system, everything I've covered today, including Qigong, if you want to do more research on your own. Does anyone have any questions before we end today? Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for, thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you to Whitney and Rashida, and thank you to the Time Camp team for allowing me to present today. Everyone has a great day.
Thank you so much. We ended right on time, and I appreciate that. In the chat, I just wrote down that we're going to take a bit of a break between 1:30 and 1:45. Folks, please do take care. Step away from the screen if you need to. Rest, hug, drink water, use the washroom. And if you wish to enter the portal space, that should be happening in room 1 in about a minute and a half or so. But yeah, please take good care, and we will see you soon. I still think it's a recording on your end.
Oh, I don't know if I can.
Or was it me? Let
I
me see
think it
if
was
it's on
you.
my end.
Yeah.
Oh, nope.